Hey guys, making a video today for about fifth day in a row, I think. I think yesterday I said 3, but it was 4. Today I'm making the video about loneliness. I think I mentioned it some in my other video where I was talking about like friends and family and stuff, but I guess I thought I should make a video specifically for this. It's not an easy topic, I guess, because there's just so many different ways a lot of people deal with it, feel like they are experiencing it, and stuff like that. Because for my situation, I really don't have friends, and I don't have a strong connection to family. But there are some people where you do have friends or family and they make you feel lonely. I think it was Robin Williams said, it's better to be alone than with people who make you feel alone, or better to be lonely than to be with people who make you feel lonely. I think he's definitely right on that. Rest in peace to him. I realize now, after kind of losing my last friends, nothing against them. We're all sinners. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're terrible people I had to get away from, because they're not. They're just normal people. But the way they were and handled like interaction and stuff kind of made me feel lonely. I realize afterwards now, because it's the small stuff where it's like they don't ever reach out to you first, or they don't ever call you, they don't ever do this or that. If it ever happens, you have to be the one to reach out first. And there are some situations like in mine where it definitely seemed like it wasn't so much. Sorry if you can hear that, it's thundering. It wasn't so much that like they just didn't care about me whatsoever. It was like we were online friends. So I think it was, each of us were kind of living our own lives, we're okay with doing our own thing, really. And someone like me craves a bit more interaction and stuff like that, so I would get in my own head thinking they don't ever reach out to me first, or what have you. But in reality, I think it was just them, trying to live their life and being okay to, not be interacting with others as much as I was. And I let that get to me. If I were still talking to them, I'd definitely apologize about that, because I feel like there were definitely times where I may have said something to them. I don't think ever like angrily about this topic specifically. I was like, you guys don't ever talk to me first. Yeah, I would apologize to them for that. But the reason I, give that example is, you need to be able to discern whether or not the people you are friends with are people you should be friends with. And I know it can be scary to just let them go, even though you shouldn't be with them because you're afraid to be alone. And I'll get more on that in a minute. But there are some people definitely, like in my situation, where, they're not going to reach out to others first because, they don't do social interaction much anyway in the first place, or just used to not ever talking to people outside of like playing games or something. so I don't ever think about it. But if it's an IRL friend group, I don't really know how to discern that so much, because the last time I had IRL friends was when I was in college, and we would see each other every day anyway, so it wasn't really much I could say on IRL friendships, unfortunately. But now to get to the part where I said I would get to that in a minute about being scared of being lonely. I don't think you should be scared of that. I realize now, after being lonely and alone for a little while, that I needed it. Like, seriously. Not like, oh, I needed to get away from those people, but I needed it seriously because I needed to work on myself. And I didn't see that. There's been several things within the past couple of months where I, reflected on my heart, saw things I was doing wrong, whether it be how I felt towards someone else or whatnot, or it's something within myself that I should change and fix. And I don't think I really would have ever had the opportunity to do so and have that reflection if I wasn't alone, to be honest. Well, alone with God, not truly alone. It is through God's grace and wisdom and patience, through the Spirit, that allowed me to reflect and change. It was not because I was just super smart and saw it. If you're a self-centered person who doesn't rely on God, you're really not going to be able to reflect on things you truly should within yourself. And I guess the main point I want to make is just to not be afraid of being alone. I know a lot of us do everything in their power they can to avoid it. They try to hang out with someone 24/7, be talking to someone 24/7, except for the hours they have to sleep, because they're just afraid of being alone, whether they see it or not. And that's not good. Even if you are or are not being afraid of alone, you shouldn't be doing that. If you're someone who has to have interaction so you're not alone by yourself, you're not giving time to be alone with God either then, which every single one of us needs, because God will show you what you need to work on, how to get closer to Him, what you need to be doing, whatever He may want to show you. You're not going to get it by never giving Him alone time. You need to read the Word, study the Scriptures, feel close to the Spirit, and pray. You're not going to really get the answers you're looking for if you just throw up a random 10-second prayer once every 4 months. That's not going to get you anything at all, which is what I used to do. If you really want to change, you're going to have to start praying every day. You have to start seeking God's wisdom and advice and help every day. Reading the Word some every day. Now, how much you read the Word and stuff like that every day, it's like a case-by-case basis. I can't say you should read a chapter or several chapters or whatever every day. That's between you and God on how much you should read at a time. For me, I used to, when I went through my transformative process 7 or 8 months ago, at first I was reading a lot every day because I just really wanted to. But at this point I've really slowed down because I've wanted to start reading a chapter every day and then actually writing down about everything if it's historical narrative, writing down what happened, or if it's something like Romans or something that Paul wrote, I'm writing out how I feel about it, what I think it's trying to say, how it can help, stuff like that. What else? Going to church as well. Worship is important. Praising God is important. The first part of Christ's prayer is, excuse me, Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name, or as I guess in more English terms, we would just say, Father in heaven, praise be to you, basically, or something along those lines. So it's important that he highlighted Jesus. He highlighted, you need to worship God even in your normal prayers. Those are the tools that you're going to kind of need in order to fight loneliness and fight yourself. You got to realize it's not up to you. You have to realize it's up to God helping you in order to truly achieve change within yourself. You're not going to achieve greatness without God in any circumstance anyway. But back to just purely talking about loneliness. I deal with it every day. But I still, like I said, you can see my computer right there. I still deal with it every day, like by also playing games, sometimes you talk to people you play games with that you don't even know. It's not like, oh yeah, this is what I need right here. I think it's, definitely healthy for someone if they're into games or trying to think of another example that's close to that. I'll just say whatever hobby it is you have, it is important, even if you are lonely and have no friends or a strong connection to family, to try and find some people to talk to, even if you don't know them. It could just be a simple 10-second interaction in the store. It doesn't have to be a full-blown spilling your heart out life story conversation with a stranger for like 2 hours. I think it's important to try and have some interaction here and there. Now, to say if you don't have it and your circumstances don't permit it, then I don't think that's all going to completely ruin everything. There's definitely times where God has had someone be off by themselves for a long time with zero interaction with others. There are just going to be times where you have to have that. Secondly, dealing with loneliness with no friends or real friends. I have, acquaintances and stuff like that, but like real friends. Trying to think of the best way to say how I do it. It's hard because, I can't really explain it. For me, it's just like I've gotten to the point where I really don't think about it 95% of the time. When I get up, I eat something, check my phone for messages. I will also highlight that it's important to pray when you wake up. When I wake up, I pray, which you should. And then I get up, eat, check my phone for messages, or emails. I start working, for a while. During my break, I usually just make some soup and eat some bread with it, and have like a banana or something. I don't know. After that, I start working again for the rest of the remainder of the time, which is usually till about 3:30 or 4. After that, I usually chug some water, and then go to the gym. I could be in the gym anywhere from like 1 to 2 hours. To be honest, I don't even work out like muscles and stuff. It's just cardio. A lot of that time is just walking, like on a treadmill in there, or using a bike machine or whatever. I prefer to just walk outside, but it's like 95 degrees and really sunny lately, so I haven't been doing that. I've just been trying to do it indoors. But yeah, then once I get out of the gym, I get out, come back, shower, get dressed, go get something to eat or make something to eat. After I eat, I have a little prayer. After that, I play a game or two or of something. Then I usually do my like little devotional thing I was talking about earlier, where I read a chapter and write stuff down about it. Pray, think about it and pray. Then go back to this computer, might watch a little YouTube or like play a game, like the same game if I wanted to keep doing something with somebody. But yeah, I just don't really feel loneliness, I guess, with this schedule, which is the reason I was trying to highlight everything was to show that I don't think I'm one of the people where it's like, I make myself so busy that I don't have time to be alone. I have prayer time, I have the devotional, I have prayer after I eat. I make time to be alone with God and myself. I don't think it's, how should I put this? I don't think it's right, like I said earlier, to seek out having time with friends or others constantly and creating zero alone time with God. If you have zero alone time with God, you are going to feel very lonely at the times you can't have interaction with friends. You need to realize that, God is the ultimate being that you need to be fear/respectful of, and time with him is the most important, not to some other person. Don't care if it's your wife, your kid, parents, sibling, whatever. God is supposed to be number one, then others are number two, and then number three is yourself. I've definitely had my moments where it's really gotten to me, obviously, the loneliness. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's never gotten to me, guys. I've never been super lonely and been sad because of it, It's definitely gotten to me. But thankfully, since I've been closer to God and trusting in him more with things, it'll come and go. I won't the loneliness won't just sit there on my heart for days on end or something like that. And it's usually just a day, maybe just a couple hours of a day or something, but then I'm fine again for a while. And honestly, every time it comes back, it's because I just didn't really give enough time to God, I feel like, to be honest. I know people, if anyone were to watch this who isn't religious, that sounds, what's the word for it? Selfish of God, or what you may ever call it. But God is love and peace and patience and kindness. He will give that to you. And I realized that at the times where I truly let it get to me, I didn't lift it up to God and ask Him for help with it. I realized afterwards, each and every time, I was allowing myself to feel lonely. I was allowing myself to feel sorry for myself. And whatever, I didn't give it up to God. I didn't talk to Him about it. I just wanted to sit there and be sad. I've said this verse countless times now during my videos, but again, Hosea 7:14, very good verse for this context, which is, they do not cry out to me from their hearts, but instead they wail on their beds. If you just sit there and feel sorry for yourself and weep about your situation, about feeling lonely, and you don't give it up to God or talk to Him about it in the moment, not afterwards, but in the moment, you're not going to feel better. If you're just going to let it get to you, it's going to get to you. And I admit myself, it's not always easy to give it up to God in the moment. So much that's going on in your life flashes through your head and occupies your thoughts. So I acknowledge it's not always easy to give it up to God during the moment. But I'm just telling you the truth, that if you don't, then you are just going to suffer through it. It's not going to get easier. Secondly, or not secondly at this point, I think it's thirdly or fourthly, which is my last point. And this is one I've made several times through other videos, is be prepared to get an answer you may not like. If you give it up to God in the moment, saying, God, please, I need friends, or a spouse, or whatever, God may say, no. I want you to spend more time getting closer to Him before He can allow you to have that, which is what's happened to me. And honestly, I'm not bitter about it. I realize that I pray for friends and like a woman every day. At the end of the night when I pray every night, I add that in my prayer every single day. But as more and more time goes on and I reflect more, and I have more to reflect on, I realize, to be honest, I still wasn't ready. I can pray all I want for that stuff, but if I'm not ready, God won't allow me to have that. And I'm glad He doesn't. You shouldn't pray for something you're truly not ready for. And that can be a tough thing to swallow. I just hope that everyone who sees this knows that they can go to God with their loneliness. They can give it up to Him in the moment. They can talk to Him about it. You may not have a person to talk to, but God is always there, ready to listen to what you have to say.